Hello, friends. Firstly, my apologies for missing the episode on Friday. I was a little under the weather and just couldn't get around to recording this and posting it for the day. So today is going to be the last and concluding episode, which should have been on Friday, on the process of job application and getting a job. And today we talk of joining the job. You've gone through the application, you've gone through the interview process, and now you've gone through the negotiation after the job offer came in. And now you're at the stage where you're joining it. Starting a new job is stressful because there are a lot of things that have to be done and which need to be done well to make sure you get yourself established well. You have to make the right impression on your seniors as well as your co-workers, teammates, because first impressions are the last impressions. You have to make sure you fit in, which is not an easy task. Doing all this, managing all this, you have to prove your mettle. You have to show that you are up to it, up to the job. You have to learn the procedures and the responsibilities of the job. And all of this put together, trust me, stress is inevitable. But there are things you can do, there are procedures you can follow to diminish, to reduce the amount of stress. I'm not saying you will completely eradicate it, no, to reduce the amount of stress that you would have to go through. Fortunately, most companies have what they call, or what we all call, an onboarding process. They have a program which is planned for onboarding new employees. So when you are doing your onboarding, you may not be the only this thing. There might have been 10 other people who are employed at the same time. And a lot, 90% of that onboarding program is going to be common to all of y'all. What will differ in the onboarding program is how it pertains to your particular job profile. And such onboarding programs typically last, depending on the organization, the size of the organization, and the way they do the onboarding, it can last from anything from 2 to 4 days up to 2 to 4 weeks. Yes, I know companies that take 4 weeks for onboarding somebody. Now, during this onboarding program, it is very, very important that you listen and understand everything very, very well with full clarity and full attention. And participate religiously. Religiously meaning you make sure that you are there 110%, not just 100%. Because this onboarding program is going to help you to know and understand your job and your profile at work much better, because that's what they will be telling you about, along with many other things. And you will get an idea and you will get acquainted with the company culture. It's very important for you to know that so that you fit in and behave in the right and appropriate way. It will help you to know your colleagues. I'm sure the onboarding program will have a round where you will be introduced to your colleagues and your managers. If you are joining at a manager level, it will introduce you to the people who are going to report to you. But, yes, a big but, the onboarding program has its limitations. It does not tell you the complete story of the company culture. That is something that you will have to figure out and learn on your own as you get settled in. In fact, there is no way, no matter how hard the company tries, there is no way, even with 4 weeks, can they explain the company culture to you in detail. The onboarding program is not going to tell you how you will cultivate relationships within the organization. They are not going to be able to tell you very clearly how you should communicate in the job and within the organization. While it will tell you what is the hierarchy, okay, who stands where and what is the thing, and it will tell you about the decisions that are made at various levels. It will not tell you about how those decisions are made. How are the processes set for decision making, and how are they followed and implemented? It will not. In fact, I have not seen any boarding program that does that. It will not talk about how the company accepts or rejects change. And this is something that's very critical. So you have to understand how the company reacts to and accepts change. I have seen companies where if you talk of change in front of your boss and you are not at the number 2 level, so to say, it can get pretty disturbing. While the onboarding will give you a pretty detailed explanation and idea about your job profile, about your TRAs, about the reporting structure, the hidden nuances of operating and succeeding in the job are things you will only learn hands-on. Okay. So having said all this, please understand that what you do during the first month or two is what is going to determine your success or failure at your job. What kind of an impression you're creating within the organization, and how will you fit in and be accepted by your colleagues? That's all going to depend 100%. And when these three things are affected, at the end of the day, it finally affects how you will perform at the job. Okay. So there are certain questions you need to ask yourself and prepare a strategy to get those answers so that you fit in well, so that you succeed at your job. Okay. The first thing that you need to understand in the job is how do you create value? You have been brought there not just to do some routine paperwork. You've been brought there for a purpose, and you need to create value. What is your role in the organization? What is it that you are expected to accomplish? If they put you there, there is something they expect out of you. And what is the time frame in which they expect you to achieve whatever they have put you there for? And finally, very importantly, how are they going to assess whether you have achieved your goal or not? Okay. And while doing all this, you have to figure out who are the stakeholders that you in your job are going to need to satisfy. It may not be just your manager. It may not be just your supervisor. It may, for all you know, start only at your manager's manager. So you need to figure out all this. How are you expected to behave in the company? We said there's a company culture and you got to behave according to that. So how are you going to behave? So inquire from your colleagues, from your teammates, from whomever you start knowing, gently, quietly, silently inquire about the company's culture and what are the norms that are accepted as good behavior. Because this will help you, knowing all of this will help you to hone your thinking and your own behavior while you are at the job. Because if you do not do this, if you do not understand the company culture and the norms of behavior, you will not be able to achieve a sense of belonging within the organization. Okay, and it will be difficult for everybody to accept you. Okay, people don't like mavericks all the time. You may not be a maverick, but not towing the company culture and behaving the way the company expects, people will term you a maverick. And all of this will lead to a further isolation in your new job itself. And that isolation and the feeling of not being accepted is going to speak on your performance and therefore affect your progress at work. Okay. What you need to also figure out once you join the job is whose support is critical for functioning and doing your job that you have been given efficiently. Will you need to build alliances? And with whom? You will need that, trust me. So you better start figuring out as soon as you can with whom you need to build those alliances. You need to understand the political landscape of the organization. And trust me, I have not seen a single organization where there is no politics involved. You need to find out who are the people who wield the power and who have the influence. They may not be the same people. Somebody has power, but somebody has more influence. And sometimes the influence comes from, or sometimes even the power maybe, comes from the person you least imagine is possible to give you that or have that kind of an influence. It can be a personal secretary of somebody who is going to be able to open the door for you to get in there and talk to the big boss. So you need to figure all this out. And once you figure it out, use it judiciously. When you start a new job, you got to set up your reputation, so to say. So figure out how you can get some early wins. Okay? Because those early wins will help to build your credibility very fast. Okay? It will establish your level of competence and your reliability. That early win has to be something that is required at that. It can't be just any random win. And it will accelerate your acceptance within your teammates and in the organization on the whole. Once you start doing the job and once you start realizing what is needed, figure out what are the skills that you need. Sit back and analyze the skills that you already have and which are enough, which you always can better, but they are enough to get you through. Figure out the skills which you have but need a lot of improvement. And finally, most importantly, figure out the skills that are required which you are not proficient in. And then how are you going to develop those skills so that you can do your job brilliantly? And even if you have all the skills that are required and you have very well mastered those skills, so to say, be sure not to fall into the comfort zone trap. Because the comfort zone trap will only help you to remain there. But if you expand your skills, since you have time which you don't have to give for the existing job, expand your skills, expand your horizons, and that will see you grow rather than just remaining there. And simultaneously, and this you will never forget, trust me, work on developing your personality. Your personal development is very important. Get better at collaborating. Get better at communicating. Get better at dealing with people on the whole, whether they are up your chain or down your chain, or your teammates who are at the same level. Every way you need to communicate and collaborate better. So, how are you going to cultivate relationships within an organization? Okay. You need to first figure out what is the culture of the organization, as I said. How do collaborations work within the organization? And are those collaborations accepted, respected, and valued or not? There are organizations I know where they don't like two guys talking to each other about work. I don't see why. It has always been detrimental in every single case I know. But are collaborations accepted within the organization and are they appreciated and valued? So this is very important to know. Okay. And if you need help, can you just ask somebody for help who you know has the proficiency, or do you first need to build relationships with them? That's very important to know. And when it comes to relationships, although we are coming to it in the next less than a minute, what are the communication channels that are preferred? Because when you build relationships, you're going to communicate with them. Emails, phone calls, video calls, or only face-to-face meetings. And each person you're trying to build a relationship might have a different choice. You need to respect those choices, and you need to find out ways to do that. Okay, so to find out all this, you don't have to go through the rigmarole of working for a year before you know everything. Talk to your colleagues. Talk to them in a nice, simple way where they don't feel that you have started probing, but let them get the impression you are trying to learn. People don't like probing, but people like it when people are trying to learn. So you need to do that. And as we just said less than half a minute back, communication. Is the organization and the people within, as I said, each of them may have a different choice. Preferred communication is via email, via phone calls, via video calls, or somebody only prefers a face-to-face meeting. You need to find out, and you need to learn that, and you need to keep that in your mind for each individual. Are formal channels of communication preferred? Like say a pre-planned meeting, okay, or is a spontaneous meeting accepted and people will be happy about it? You need to be able to figure that out. I know so many people were spontaneous meetings because they like to go there, get well prepared, be ready for the questions, and then attend the meeting. And at the formal meeting, if that is the preferred route, are the discussions formal? Or are they casual, more like just a brainstorming session? By casual, I don't mean talking at the same time, 5 of us know, but it doesn't have to be a formal. Or are PPTs the preferred route? Whatever you're thinking, put on a PPT and show it around. You have to figure this out, and you've got to adapt yourself to that. And all of this, as I said less than a minute back, you have to ask around. You have to find out from your colleagues, from your teammates, from even your managers on how you should do it. Another thing you need to check about communication is whether it is okay for you to communicate above your hierarchy. So you might be somewhere, there is a manager, and there is a manager's manager. Is it okay for you to bypass your manager and talk to the manager's manager if it does not directly involve the manager and his responsibility towards the task? Say you've developed a new skill and you want to do something else. That's what I'm talking about. As I said, you'll need to know what is the decision-making process like. Are there real-time decisions that are being made during meetings or during discussions? Are casual decisions made at a coffee table or at the water cooler acceptable in the organization? And are decisions based on actions that have been happening, or is it only based on data and analysis? Having said all this, we come to something that is very critical. It's the most critical thing that you will need to figure out is evaluate the toxicity of the workplace. A lot of this you should have known if you have been alert, right from the application process to the interview process. Okay, were things done on time? Did you get responses on time? Or were they done on a reasonable time if they have not given you a time? Were the communications that you received clear and didn't need any explanation? Were there endless rounds of interviews? And did people always come late for interviews and make you wait? Or when you were there for multiple interviews, depending on the time of the day or depending on how much they made you wait, did they offer you tea? Did they offer you coffee? Did they offer you lunch if it is that kind of a timing? See, these things will tell you about the toxicity of the place. But besides these indicators, which you know from before joining and yet you have joined, negotiated and joined, check with employees after joining. Check what is the employee turnover. That will tell you a lot about how employees feel within the organization. Find out how is it communicating with the manager or the manager's manager. Are the employees happy? Are your teammates happy working there? These are the things that will tell you about the toxicity of the place. Having done all this, and now that you have joined and got into the groove, so to say, at the new thing, go ahead, outdo yourself. Excel at what you do. Keep expanding your skills. Okay? Keep expanding your horizon. And you will definitely make that career that you have always dreamed of. All the very best to you. And I hope this has answered the questions of all those many graduating students. I think there's upwards of 200 of them who have been writing and messaging me. I hope this is helping all of you. Good day. Have a great day.